Hello, my friends, and welcome to 7 True Scary Stories. What makes a story truly scary? Is it the proportion of disbelief, or the realization of its actual probability? Either way, that decision's up to you. Here's 7 true scary stories from YouTube commenters. This happened a few weeks ago. My mother and I had just finished shopping at Walmart. We're on our way back to get her driver's license renewed. While on her way, we suddenly got stuck behind a drunk driver. Or at least he seemed drunk, skidding around, swerving left and right, making sudden stops. I was annoyed, but kind of worried. Since there are no cars around, my mom decided to switch lanes and hop in front of them. While switching lanes, I got a good look inside the car and at the driver. There was actually 3 people in the car. The driver had long, brown, messy hair. He was Caucasian, though I couldn't see his face. It was covered by his long hair. "What did they look like?" my mom asked. I explained what I had seen. But that's not the scary part. The scary part happened a few minutes after we saw them. I was staring out the window, very bored, when I saw a silhouette of a man walking. As my mom drove closer, she drove out of the way a bit, even though he had enough room to walk. There were no other cars on the road except for my mom's and a guy with a black pickup truck behind us. As the guy walked closer, I got a better look at his face. He looked exactly like Sam Winchester from Supernatural, except this guy had really curly hair. He was wearing a red beanie, a faded green hoodie, and short beige pants. As we got closer, he walked into the road. It looked like he tripped, but he didn't. He quickly went back to the grass. Then a second later, he jumped in front of our car. Our eyes locked. His eyes were black. I shouted, "What the hell?" staring in disbelief, and my mom shouted her own obscenities, which was weird considering that she never swears. Luckily, my mom swerved out of the way before he could actually hit us. I looked behind us to see him jump in front of the black pickup truck behind us, but they swerved out of the way too. I looked back in front of us. My heart was pounding out of my chest. We never saw him after that. Once I got home, I looked up jumping in front of cars. Apparently, people do it either for views on YouTube or money or just playing chicken. But I don't think he was doing it for any of those reasons. I think he was just trying to commit suicide. When he jumped in front of us, he didn't have any facial expression. He had no people with him. And he wasn't holding a camera. He was serious about doing this. And the black eyes? Maybe he had dark eyelashes or dark eyes. Or maybe he was just on a lot of drugs. Who knows? We never called the police. I know, I'm stupid. We should have. What if we hurt someone? I guess I'll never know. You know how when you're a kid, things don't seem the way they actually are? Well, I had one of those experiences. When I lived on post, I had a best friend, and she and I couldn't have been more than 8. One morning, after a particularly fun sleepover, I remember a knock at the door. We answered, and there were 2 men in black suits. As soon as she saw them, she ran up the stairs full speed and to what I think was her bedroom, sobbing her eyes out. Little 8-year-old me was oblivious. Both her parents went to go comfort her, and the man took their attention to me. When we sat down at the kitchen table, they started to ask me simple questions. I can't remember what now, but I do remember at one time they pulled out a piece of paper with a drawing of a kid and lines going to part of his body. They started asking me to name the parts of the body, and they'd write it down. At one point, they pointed to the genitals and said, "And what is this called, dear?" They gave each other a weird look and briskly packed up their stuff and left. Soon after, her parents asked me to leave, and I never saw her again. Now I realize that those men were most likely social service workers and asked me these questions to see if I noticed anything like abuse. I don't think her parents ever abused her. They were always very sweet, like I said. But things always seem a bit different as a kid. Before I begin, a little bit of context to the story. About 4 years ago, there is a chain of murders in my local area, performed by a man stalking young children, and while they were alone, he would kill them. Now, my story. It was a Halloween night. I know, typical. And a cold one, too. It was around 9 p.m., and I was traveling to a friend's house to watch movies. I had received the message on Skype, so I went to his house excited to see what movies were on. But on my way there, a man spoke to me. He was tall and fat and looked scruffy and ragged. He said, "Hey, kid, how are you doing?" I ignored him and I kept walking. But he kept walking with me. And he said, "I want to be your friend." At this point, I sped up to almost a jogging speed. He was keeping up with my pace. I was only 9, so I was rather afraid. I shouted at him to get lost and started running down an alley next to my friend's house. I hid behind a car I found. I felt a nerve twitching, and I made a little gasp for air as I had been running. The man heard this, and to my surprise, he was right next to me. How did I not notice him? He grabbed my arm, but before he could do anything, I shrugged him off and I ran. In a pure state of adrenaline, I ran around the corner, found an empty dustbin, and hid inside of it. I could hear the man saying, "Come out, little boy." I did not speak, did not move. I was frozen. I peered out of the dustbin, and I saw he was carrying 2 bags, both in one hand. I noticed the bottom of it had blood on the bag. I was sweating. I thought maybe it was carrot juice or tomato juice. When the coast was clear, I got out of the bin and ran straight home. The man saw me run and made no effort. I could see something like a stick in his coat. I was lucky to get away. 3 days later on the news, the serial killer had placed body parts of his victims throughout my local area. I knew in my gut he was linked with the man that I saw. The story is 100% true, and I'm still scared for life from this encounter. This happened with my grandfather January 2 years ago. He was in the hospital and, for a long time, he wasn't doing well. His health was failing fast. But one day he just seemed much better, personality-wise. Now, I didn't get to see him in his final days, but when relatives that visited him asked him what changed his mood, he told them that he had spoken with God, had seen heaven, and even got to talk with his long-dead mother and family members. He said they were happy to see him and were waiting for him. He said he was happy and ready to go, but he didn't know when. A few days later, after picking me and my little sister up from school, our mom told us that he had passed away peacefully just that morning. I took it pretty hard at the time, but looking back, I'm glad he was comfortable, happy, and ready to leave this world, and all the pain that had endured him. I have somewhat of a ghostly experience. It was late July or early August, and I was about 6 years old at the time it happened. My memory's a bit sketchy when this happened, so bear with me. My parents and I just moved from Washington, D.C. to the most redneck part of North Carolina due to my dad being in the military. My dad was in San Francisco, studying at the time, leaving me and my mom in the new house. One night, I was sleeping in my parents' bed, and I woke up feeling a tad uneasy and saw a faint figure of a man at the foot of the bed. What I could tell in the dark, he put his index finger to his lips, telling me to be quiet. He mouthed that he was here to protect me and my mother. He vanished. My mother woke up not long after, asking me why I was up. I told her what happened, and she quickly got out of bed. She searched the entire house to find the man, but was unsuccessful. It was a dark night. I was home alone. I don't remember where my parents were at, but I'm pretty sure they were supposed to be home by then. I was bored and tired, so I decided not to wait up for my parents and just go to sleep. My bed's right below the window. I woke up in the middle of the night because I heard a very strange sound. I figured that it was just my parents coming home. So, for some reason, I decided to go downstairs and check on them or something. But when I came downstairs, I didn't see my parents. I only saw a tall man, dressed in all black, and he was just looking at me. I was in the middle of the staircase, so I ran back up and locked myself in the bathroom. The next morning he was gone. My parents had slept at a friend's house. When they came home, I told them everything. They called the police. The man didn't steal anything. But they realized one thing. There were no doors or windows open. Only the window in my bedroom was open. He had climbed up to my window. Somehow, he had climbed over me without waking me up. Let's just say that now I will always keep my window closed. Here's a story that happened to me when I was 10. We had moved into a new house. It had 2 bedrooms and 1 unused office room, with a door and a window, you know the types. Now, my parents had their own room, and my 2 sisters each had a room, which left me with the office. Now, let me tell you a little thing about this room. To start off, the door had no doorknob, so this thing did not close easy. Every night I had to put an exercise bike that we had in front of the thing, and it was rather heavy. Now, this happened a month after moving in. I was sleeping in my bedroom, taking a nap, and I awoke to see these blue people. They were both glowing and trying to open the door and putting their fingers through the doorknob hole. I just stared at them, not wanting to scream, because I didn't want my parents to get hurt. After a while, they gave up and walked off, and I probably passed out from exhaustion. I woke the next morning to find everything fine. Nothing was stolen, and everyone was safe. Fun fact. Till today, I can't look at the Blue Man Group. Do you have a scary story you would like to share with me online? Write your scary story in the comments below, or email them to me at xmorstar@gmail.com. That's all the time I have for today, my friends. I hope you're having a wonderful day or evening. I'm Amori. Now, listen to the spooky tunes.